This new law will crush Florida HOAs, and one politician's not just talking about it, he's already making moves. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA in Florida, you know why people are cheering him on. In this video, I'll show you how this new law could wipe out most HOAs for good, why one woman's HOA threw her in jail over a patch of brown grass, and how to make sure you don't get stuck in a nightmare neighborhood. Let's jump in. This Florida politician just said what a lot of people have been thinking for years. Maybe it's time to ban HOAs. His name's Juan Carlos Porras. He's from Miami-Dade and a member of the Florida House of Representatives. And he says the whole system's gotten out of hand. He's considering introducing a bill that would wipe out most HOAs in the state. He's not talking about condos or neighborhoods with shared roofs, pools, or big community features. Those are going to be left alone. His focus is on HOAs that just do the basics.
In Miami-Dade County, where it's just a bunch of houses. I mean, the HOA doesn't really maintain anything other than the grass in some areas, and yet you're being charged $500, $600 plus a month, when in reality, you don't see a lot of that money going back to even your own community.
So $500 a month, and they don't even cut your grass or take care of your landscaping? They only cut a few common areas? That's a lot of cheese to be shelling out every month.
I think, it was a failed experiment, to be quite honest, and we've seen over the years with the level of abuse and mismanagement that it does more harm than good.
He says too many of them are wasting money, creating unnecessary stress and making life harder for homeowners who are just trying to keep up. And he's not wrong. A lot of people are paying high fees and still getting hit with surprise fines and random violations, with no real say in how their neighborhoods run. This isn't a new topic for Porras. He's been working on HOA issues for a while now, but up to this point, he's mostly focused on reform, more transparency, better communication, and more power for homeowners. But now he's saying those small fixes aren't enough. He wants to scrap the whole thing. He hasn't filed the bill yet. It would come next session, but he's already talking like it's time to pull the plug. And he's not alone. A lot of homeowners are fed up and ready to see something change. And if you've ever wondered who thought HOAs were a good idea, here's how we got into this mess. It was developers, cities, and the federal government all working together to make this concept explode. HOAs have been around in some form since the 1800s, mostly in wealthy neighborhoods where people wanted to keep things looking a certain way. Back then, it was mostly about deed restrictions, private agreements that said what you could or couldn't do with your property. A few early ones even popped up in places like New York and San Francisco, where developers wanted full control over who moved in and how things looked. But they didn't really take off until the 1960s. That's when the federal government started requiring HOAs for new condos and subdivisions if they wanted to qualify for FHA loans. Basically, if a developer wanted financing, they had to slap an HOA on the neighborhood. That one rule changed everything. Then in 1964, the feds published a planning bulletin that told developers how to build these master plan communities with shared green space, parks, and other amenities. And HOAs were baked into the model. Cities loved it because they got all the benefits of new housing without having to pay for things like street repairs, water drainage, and landscaping. It was like outsourcing basic services to the homeowners while still collecting property taxes. That part's important. Cities still charge people in HOAs the same taxes as everybody else, but since the HOA handles all the local maintenance, the city doesn't have to spend a dime. It's free money. That's why cities push developers to create HOA-run neighborhoods. The more HOAs, the less the city has to do. Developers love it too. HOAs help keep neighborhoods tidy, keep home values high, and let the developer stay in control until all the homes are sold. And here's the part most people don't realize. The developer builds just enough infrastructure to get the project approved. Roads, drainage pipes, retention ponds, all the basics. Then they hand it off to the HOA or a community development district called a CDD. That's basically a mini government inside the neighborhood. But the developer's not paying for any of it long term. The homeowners are. They're the ones stuck paying for all that infrastructure and sometimes for decades. And in some neighborhoods, it can cost $5,000 a year. And most buyers don't realize they're stuck paying for it until after they buy the house. I did a whole video about CDDs, and I'll drop a link in the description if you want to check it out. According to a 2025 report from iProperty Management, 64% of owned homes in Florida are now part of an HOA, and there are about 50,000 HOAs in the state, second only to California. So this isn't some random trend. It was planned, promoted, and profitable. And now, millions of homeowners are left paying the bill. And people don't hate HOAs because of one bad story. They hate them because this stuff keeps happening, and it's always worse than you'd expect. Look at the hammocks in Miami. That HOA board is being prosecuted for stealing millions from their own community. They set up fake companies, funneled payments, and drained the budget while everyone else was just trying to pay their dues. They even paid nearly $500,000 to fake vendors they made up. It was straight up organized fraud. Then there's a woman in Riverview, Florida, in the Creekview HOA. Her grass was brown, her mailbox was dirty, and the garage door had a dent. She fixed everything, still got arrested. She missed a court date she says she was never notified about, and when the cops pulled her over, they took her to jail. The judge wouldn't give her bail, so she had to sit in jail like a criminal for 7 days over HOA violations. I did a whole video about this, and it'll be in the description below. And it gets better. The same property manager and attorney from the Creekview case, Ron Trowbridge, and attorney Francis Frischia were also involved in another HOA disaster in Carrollwood. This time, it was the Plantation of Carrollwood HOA. That board spent $360,000 fighting 2 failed board elections in 2019 and 2022. They didn't like the results, so instead of just running a new election, which would have been cheap and easy, they hired lawyers and dragged it out. Homeowners got stuck with that huge bill all over ego and power. Nobody should lose their home over stuff like this, and nobody should go to jail. If HOAs were banned, the city would have to enforce the rules, just like they do in every other neighborhood. You'd get a notice, maybe a fine, but you wouldn't be sitting in jail or paying someone else's legal bill. That's why people are so sick of HOAs. But not everybody's ready to end HOAs. There's some pretty powerful people who are gonna fight like hell to keep HOAs in place. And they're the same ones who helped kill Florida's HOA reform bill that Juan Carlos Porras introduced earlier this year. The same one that quietly died in committee. That bill would have added more transparency and protections for homeowners, but it never made it to the full vote. Want to know why? Here's what I think. Let me introduce you to the Community Associations Institute, or CAI. Through their Florida lobbying arm, CAI-FLA, they've basically become the political muscle behind HOAs in the state. They represent a significant portion of Florida's approximately 50,000 community associations, which collectively cover millions of residents. They're not just waving signs. CAI Florida plays politics the way big organizations do, with money and influence. They chip into lawmakers' campaigns. That's done legally through a PAC fund or political action committee, where members pool funds to support politicians who align with their interests. These donations help them get access to legislators. They also hire lobbyists, often lawyers or industry insiders, to whisper in lawmakers' ears behind closed doors. Those lobbyists share reports, data, or homeowner satisfaction surveys to make it sound like everything is going great with HOAs. Then they push lawmakers to slow walk bad bills or kill them before they even reach a vote. And this kind of thing is normal and completely legal. It's how every powerful interest survives in politics. Utilities, big pharma, big food, money equals access and influence, plain and simple. So when CAI Florida flexes, lawmakers notice. And that's how you end up with HOA authority staying exactly the way it is, even when people are shouting for change. They say the 2023 Bill of Rights for homeowners already fixed everything, but it didn't. But that was their big talking point to stop the 2025 HOA reform bill from going anywhere. More on that in a minute. And now that a politician like Rep. Juan Carlos Porras is talking about banning HOAs, you better believe CAI Florida is going to throw everything they got at stopping it. They'll roll out ad campaigns, they'll line up testimonials, they'll flood lawmakers with letters from HOA boards saying they love the rules, and they'll tell voters that without HOAs, property values are going to tank, streets won't get clean, and chaos is going to reign. None of that's accidental. It's organized, it's well-funded, and it's coming. And let's be honest, banning HOAs sounds great to a lot of people, but actually pulling it off, that's a whole different story. Florida's already seen what happens when someone tries to shake things up. Rep. Juan Carlos Porras tried pushing that HOA reform bill that would have brought more oversight, more transparency, and given homeowners more control. Seemed like a no-brainer, right? It made it through 2 committees, then died quietly in the 3rd. No full vote, it just disappeared. And that tells you everything you need to know about how hard this fight's gonna be. I think banning those HOAs that don't provide any real value to homeowners is a great idea. But with all the lawyers, lobbyists, and property managers lined up to protect the system, it's gonna take a lot more than one politician to pull this off. That said, I'd also love to see Porras bring back the HOA reform bill too, kind of a double whammy for the next session. That would make things more transparent and harder for board members to abuse power, and give people a real way to push back when the HOA starts overstepping. Now, as for my man, Governor Ron DeSantis, he hasn't said a word about this yet. He's busy trying to wipe out property taxes for Florida residents, and we appreciate it, sir. But if this picks up steam or starts making headlines, I'm curious to see what he says about it. And look, I know there's a lot of people out there who love their HOA. Some of them work great. They keep things clean and quiet. You just don't hear about those neighborhoods because good news doesn't go viral. If you live in a solid HOA community, drop it in the comments. I want to hear about it. But for a lot of people, banning HOAs would save them real money. No monthly dues, no power-hungry board members. Pair that with no property taxes someday, and now we're cooking. So what can you do? Call your state rep. It doesn't matter if you want a full ban, common sense reform, or both. Make sure they know where you stand. And look, I love living in Florida. Sunshine, blue skies, water everywhere. It really does something to your soul, man. Moving here was the best decision of my life. And whether you're looking to move across the state or coming down to get out of the cold like I did, if you find a place in an HOA, just read the bylaws so you know exactly what you're getting into. And here's my tip. I'd also knock on a few neighbors' doors in the association. Ask them how the HOA really is. You'll learn more from them than anything in the paperwork. And something big is coming to the Florida housing market, and DeSantis just made it official. Click here to find out how this will end property taxes in Florida forever. What he's planning could flip the entire tax system upside down. But not everyone's on board. There are some powerful people trying hard to stop him. Who's fighting it? And why are they so desperate to keep you paying property taxes? Click here to find out.